Important because today you have a government which is very focused on the dreams and aspirations and the ambitions of young people. Now, I can say that to you in a very general way, it makes sense. I want to give you 2 or 3 examples, and I want you to think about those examples. Take the example of COVID. When I was your age, or maybe even 10 years ago or 15 years ago, something like COVID happened, we would have said, it is such a big problem, what can we do? We will wait to see what the world is doing, and we will maybe wait for our turn for vaccination, for medicines, for response. Instead, actually, we are among today the big countries which have the highest rate of vaccinations. We are a country which made our own vaccination. We are a country which invented our own vaccination. We are one of the few countries which actually had a COVID app so that everybody who got vaccinated had a digital certificate. 2 certificates, people of my age have 3. And the point I want to make to you is your India is already very different from the India of my youth. It is an India today which is capable of looking at challenges, at finding solutions, at doing things in India with Indian talent, with Indian capabilities in a manner that we could not have imagined earlier. The second example I would give you, which again Rajesh ji referred to, what happened in February and March in Ukraine. The fact that many young people like you were trapped in the fighting in Ukraine. And there was no country in the world that took out as many people, as many students out of Ukraine in the manner and the speed with which we did. In the old days, we would have felt, yes, our people are stuck, but what can we do? Today, whether it is COVID or whether it is Operation Ganga, for me the big change is whether it is the country, whether it is the government, the change today is we can do it. We can find a solution, we have the capability, we have the confidence, our system will come together, and that is how I think we are seen in the world today in a very different way. And why is this? Why is this change? I have been in the government a long time. Before joining politics, as you heard in the introduction, I did more than 40 years in the government. When I was working in the government, you're not a political person. I joined politics quite recently, about 3 years ago. And the reason that someone like me joined politics was because of a feeling that country is changing, there are things we must do. There is today a leader we have who has that ambition. He is today leading us into a very, very different future. And so people, even like me, who did not have there's nobody in my family who's in politics, not one person. But someone like me with a very non-political background, professional background, actually decided that, okay, I have still some years where I can work, let me try and do something. Now, what is I would say, the future that awaits you all? First thing, what we regard as basic. There is a phrase in Hindi, roti, kapda or makan. These were aspirations. One day you will get a house. You will have a job. You will have enough to feed yourself. Today, I think in Narendra Modi's India, these are not aspirations. These are basics, and these are basics that the government is committed to ensuring that every citizen of India has. So, if you look at the last 8 years, actually very big changes have come about, where people have got houses, people have got health coverage, people have got digital connectivity, especially girls are going to schools in larger numbers and staying in schools. People are getting trained in skill sets. Even during COVID, we made sure that nobody went hungry, that nobody lacked for money for essentials. Now, when we speak of these schemes, and I go abroad and talk to other foreign ministers and other leaders and foreign press about it, they cannot believe the size of these schemes. You know, if I were to take even a scheme which you would have heard of called Ujjwala, which is to replace firewood with cooking gas, the number of people who are benefited is the population of Germany, just on that one scheme. If you take the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, where we give food even today to people who need it, the number of people who get it are more than the entire population of America and Europe put together. And we are doing this today because this country has become more digital. That we have because of the Jan Dhan Yojana, because of the fact all of us have Aadhaar cards, because of the fact that we are all today digitally connected through our phones. There is actually a revolution of a kind which is happening. And I cannot tell you the importance of it, because for many years, people have looked at India. We just had a very important foreign visitor to India with whom I was sitting yesterday. And the point he made was challenges in India which for 60, 70 years you could not meet. Because in the rest of the world, these are taken as basics. These are your rights. These are not your aspirations. Your dreams are something bigger than this. That the first, I would say, the big achievement of the Modi government has been to ensure that the average citizen has got the rights which he or she should have had for many, many years. The right to health, the right to education, the right to a house, the right to food, the right to safety. So there is, in many ways, that very different India in which you are living. And I know it's your right, but please do not assume that it was always there, because it was not there when we were young. The second issue which I want to flag to your mind, what are the opportunities before you? Your opportunities are very different from those of our generation. At that time, government was the only employer. Even government employment was very small. The possibility that there could be use of your own talent, of your own skills, even the word startup did not even exist at that time. Digital was a physics concept. It was not something which was an engineering achievement which we all use. So today, in a world which is more digital, in a world which is more self-employed, in a world which is much more friendly towards innovation to startups, there are today so many other possibilities that your generation has, which, as I said, I look at you with envy. But these are not only possibilities within India. There are also possibilities in the entire world. That many of you today, as young people, have a chance of going abroad and also working. Today, I look at the number of passports that we issue, because it is done by my ministry. The rate at which our passport issual is growing is actually phenomenal. Even before COVID, we used to issue about 40,000, 45,000 passports a day. Today, we are actually looking at almost 70,000 passports a day. And we see, again, the government today is committed to making the world a workplace for Indians. So when Indians go abroad, it isn't only students that we looked after as we did in Ukraine. We actually try to see if where can students get opportunities, work opportunities, where can professionals get opportunities, where can our workers get opportunities, how can we look after them. So the care which the Modi government has taken of Indians abroad, especially of Indians who work abroad, to ensure that the world is a workplace for them, I think is very important. And the third is something which is very basic to all of us. All of us love our country. All of us want to see a secure and safe India, because a secure and safe India is a secure and safe existence for all of us. And it's very important in a world which is more difficult, where there are challenges on our border, where there are problems with terrorism, where there are new issues which come. There can be cyber issues, where even conflict in other parts of the world, as we are discovering, impact our lives. We are seeing that because of the Ukraine conflict. The idea that you have a government which is confident, which is clear-headed, which understands the world, I think that is something which every Indian should appreciate. Again, as I said, you are young people, your lives are ahead of you. Many of you will be making your choices about which direction you want your country to go. And I'm very confident that it would be logical, natural for you to look at the country being led by very experienced, very responsible, very visionary, very ambitious leadership, a leadership that will ensure that all the opportunities that you can have are delivered to you, a leadership that can ensure that India standing in the world is strong, that we are safe at home, that our borders are safe, that our economic opportunities, that growth rates remain high, and that growth is inclusive. It is not only for a few people. So I end on the same note at which I began. I think a great future awaits all of you, and I hope that each one of you looks at it with confidence and seizes the opportunities which come. So with those words, let me perhaps stop, and I could take some questions, maybe sit there and reply.
Geeta Shashikumar. Recently, during the Russian-Ukraine war, our government took great effort to bring back our students stranded in Ukraine. This was an eye-opener to realize that many of our students are going to countries like Ukraine for studies, especially to pursue medicine. Isn't it because of the lesser number of availability of seats when compared to the population? Will the government take the initiative to increase the number of seats to provide more opportunities for students?
I think, we have today roughly about 10 lakh Indian students who are studying in different countries abroad. And one of the reasons they are studying is that the expansion, the growth of educational institutions, which should have happened in the course of the last many decades, did not happen to that degree. That's a fact. So if you look at, say, the number of IITs when I was leaving school, I think 20 years later, the number of IITs would not have grown very much. The same would have applied to medical, same would have applied to, in fact, even universities, even bachelor's degree. Now, it's very interesting. This concern is something which is very strongly felt in the government. So what has happened in the last 8 years is, if you look at the total number of colleges in the country, look at the number of students who are graduating, even if you look at the, I'm giving you, not everybody can go to IIT and IIM. I didn't go myself, so I have no particular desire to use it as a reference point. But if you look, the number of IITs, number of IIMs, number of AIMs, number of engineering colleges, number of medical, every one of them has gone up. In some cases, they've gone up by 50, 60% in the last 8 years. So you are absolutely correct in identifying the problem, but you can't solve a problem in a year or two. Sometimes it takes 4 or 5 years by the time you do it. But I assure you, and this government has something called a new education policy. The new education policy is much more open also to foreign collaboration, to working with foreign universities in India to expand educational opportunities. So I would very much hope that the kind of situation we see today, that many people go abroad, not because they want to go abroad, but because they couldn't get the opportunity in India, I would certainly like to see that go down, and I can assure you that is very much the policy of the government.
Thank you.
Can you keep your mic close?